question is for the dentist, and thank you to all of you. It's been amazing. I spend my life working in this space around culture and leadership, and it's very rare to see an organisation where they have absolutely transformed the culture from what you're talking about. So A, like freaking fantastic, and B, my question is, where to from here? And the reason that I ask that is because the skill set that you guys have in transforming business obviously can be applied anywhere, not just in dentistry. So where to from here? I
know I was just speaking to Annika, a friend of ours, and she said she was working with you and said that's your area, which is pretty cool. So really for us, like the purpose is positively transforming dentistry, and so that's what we're committed to. So it was quite interesting when we won the Great Place to Work award. Jane Fleming was awarded, and she was like, "Oh wow, that's really impressive, like in your industry." It was how she announced the award. And so that's what, there's plenty of room in that realm. Like people don't think about dentists and go, "Oh, that'd be amazing to work there." Or no one's like, "Woo, dentist." So there's heaps of work for us to do in this space and trying to grow other dentists and trying to improve workplace cultures in dentistry.
There's another aspect too, which is the industry is changing hugely, and we're seeing now huge corporate involvement, which is not necessarily bad, but it's not what we do. And young dentists aren't getting opportunities like they did have of owning a practice anymore. They're more of a cog in the big machine, which, as I said, is important part of the industry, but we're looking at ways to change that, to give dentists opportunities that they will be able to have their own practice using our model. So yeah, we're excited about that.
Lockie or Deb, do you have anything to add around culture in organisations?
Yeah, placing value on your employees and also just, I think, emphasising that treating your customers as valuable because your customers then go on to become advocates of your organisation, of how you made them feel. And I think that will become I guess a good PR message for you on its own. So
it's a no-brainer, really, isn't it? Happy workers have an effect on clients who keep coming back, and therefore the bottom line goes up. And you kind of go, why isn't this just everyday normal behaviour within a workplace? Lockie?
I guess just briefly, I guess how Splend's evolved with different sites throughout the country, it tends to come from the top. So if you work with the leader of that team, I found that's really effective to create consistent culture throughout the organisations. But still, we're still young and forming with that, and I think it's really clear if you're with that recruitment process, that if there's someone going to be leading a team, that they are quite sure around what their personal values are, what they stand for, what they're promoting in that, because then that filters down.
Thank you. Another question?
Back to the dentists again, Peter Jamison. Building a culture is a really exciting thing and everyone gets on board. Sustaining that culture and sustaining expectations to go with that culture from your staff's point of view and from your point of view, and so that fulfilment that your staff see in the first place is respected all the way through. How do you achieve that over time?
So it's just about continuing the culture is really interested in. Really, like initially it was all about just Eli and me having to out-enthuse everyone. And so that was pretty much what we were doing initially, but then it was trying to then put systems in place. So like boom cards, it's a thing that we do every week, and people just get on board with that. So now it's not about Eli and me having to be the ones that make everyone feel special. The whole team's doing that on a daily basis. So it's just, for us, that the process is on it. We also have traditionally dentistry is like a practice manager who's the head person, but we've split that role into an operations manager and Bob. So the Bob role is bringing out the best, and their whole role is pretty much to make the team feel fulfilled. So they meet most members of the team for weekly coaching conversations, working through the individual coaching plans to make sure that they're feeling fulfilled and enjoying their workplace.
That's perfect, yeah.
And I think you've heard consistently the pieces around mentoring, relationships. It's been the theme of the morning. So it's actually investing that time, and that time will save you time and money in the long term. Heidi. Certainly.
So a lot of you talked a bit about your own personal growth through that journey and as the leader goes to the organisation. I'm wondering for all of you, what was the biggest personal growth kind of barrier that you had to break through that you then saw results in your business because of your own personal growth as a leader?
Probably like myself, the biggest single realization was I was reading Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, and then like the habit 1 being proactive and realizing myself that I could choose my response to any situation. So there's a stimulus and my response, and in the middle I had the ability to choose. And before that I was completely reactive, and it'd be like someone made me angry, someone made me upset. And then I realized through that, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so good. And like, someone could do something and I can just choose to be happy or whatever. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, why didn't someone tell me this ages ago? So that, and then, yeah, that plays out hugely in a workplace. So that, for me, that was the single biggest realization, which is so obvious, but I don't know, it took me to like 28 years to realize that.
Stephen, how old are your children?
7 and 4.5.
Okay, my daughter is 17, and now she says to me, "You're choosing to be angry at me." So be careful. Okay. Anyone else?
So for me, in dentistry, it's a high-stress environment. You know, you're working to the clock. You've got to do things exactly right every time, and you're very detail-driven. And then that translates into the rest of your life, whether it be managing the team or home life. And it's not exactly a positive headspace when you're doing a one-on-one coaching. So for me, it was redefining my roles and saying, well, there is a better way. And once we started getting into thinking about what a better way to live is and what a better way to interact is, we started investing in coaching with the assistants. Now the assistants do so much more for us so that we can stay in that level of kind of, you know, creative thinking and thinking on the spot and dealing with the team so much more, that better way really made a big difference to us. Yeah.
Lockie and Deb?
I guess what Steve was saying, the 7 Habits book for me had a huge influence as well. But for me, it was kind of realising that you're part of a bigger team and there's more cogs in the wheel. I've always been someone high energy and been that bubbly person. But then a bit of a slap in the face for me, as we've kind of gone through this journey, is that people, don't necessarily always respond the same way to that higher energy. So for me, I had to be a lot more conscious around other people's energy they brought into the room and things like that, because people do have different personality types to be an effective leader. That's kind of one of the big personal things I had to become more conscious of.
For me, it was having an uncle and that girl that I pointed out in the presentation saying, back yourself, because I was working with someone who was an advisor / director in the company at the time, and they would constantly make out that I couldn't do particular things because I was inexperienced, or you wouldn't know what they were talking about, or something like that. And after I asked that person to resign, I felt more empowered to go out and seek the advice and the help that I needed during, to have those discussions for, shareholders agreements and things like that. Whereas previously they would say, oh, look, you won't know what we're talking about. So challenge it, get the advice that you need. There are people out there who will help you, and just don't doubt yourself.
Stephen, I also have 2 daughters. One's almost 8, the other's about 5.5. How on earth were you able to build the change and develop the company the way you have with managing work life and family?
I don't know, like I try to plan my week ideally. So I suppose when I'm at home, I'm fully focused there. And then when I'm at work, I'm fully focused on that. So at the moment, then my wife and I separated last year, so I'm part-time and full-time dad. So that's been a big change, but probably support of Eli's been awesome. And it's just to me, working together with other people makes things so much more enjoyable. when it was just me, as I said, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. But with Eli, it just feels like then we're just so much better as a duo rather than as a single act.
Yeah, well, so similar to Steve, I've got a young one. My wife's pregnant at the moment at home. I'm doing a Masters of Finance. We're doing all the uni work as well, managing a few practices. We're opening 2 new practices this year. We do the mini residency. So, there's no excuse. You just have to prioritise properly. My biggest problem, as I said, is just task switching. So going from work and focus and then to a conversation and then to home. And really the values is what keeps me grounded. So I have my own values personally, the practice has their values, and then my wife and I went through the process of defining our personal values. And so there's less fight, and that sort of, conflict sucks a lot of energy. So if you're on the same page together, at least when things come up, then you can deal with them. And that's the same with Steve and I. We've spent a lot of time being honest and open with each other. Everyone says don't get into business with your best mate, it's going to end badly. But you're at work all the time. Why would you want to be hanging out with people you don't really like? And so that's kind of our approach to things. And I think that gives us the energy to keep moving.
There's one good question. I don't have any kids that I know.
You got a dog? At least?
Hi, maybe to Deb mostly, but the rest of the panel as well. With the 4% of female entrepreneurs and Newcastle sort of being an emerging economy, what would you recommend to us to maybe encourage more women into your sector?
I do think that there is a whole team of people that entrepreneurs in general need to be connected to. So, your bookkeepers who are more than bookkeepers, who will also go out and find grants for you. It's those advisors. It's your tax accountants. So it's those women to not only gain the confidence in themselves, but keep them going financially and keep their momentum up. So if those co-work spaces could, support entrepreneurs and support female entrepreneurs with that network of actual real practical help to keep them going, then I think that would go a long way. Yeah. Yep.
Hello, Annika Jamison. Gents, hi. I actually met these guys at a conference, and Stephen and I got chatting because we both move so much when we talk. And so it was just a great precursor for the fact that we're going to be great mates. Question for everybody. They talk about innovation and collaboration, and this is something that we've found in our company and in the tech space. How do you dance the line between collaboration and working with people that then just sort of want to take your ideas and capitalise on what you've got? So you all have wonderful ideas, and I'm sure people want to learn from you and work with you. How do you manage the relationships?
One for that. So I love Richard Branson's term intrapreneurs, where he talks about getting ideas from inside the company. So we talked about the Avenue Dental Outreach Program, which Greg, one of our dentists, has started to employ. And we have a document called A Process of Change, which we hope forces people to think like owners when they come to us with an idea. So, what's it going to cost? What's going to be the benefits? How are we going to implement? Who's going to resist this? What are you going to say to them? What's the time frame? So all the things that you want to think about as an owner is forced, that process is forced onto them, so they have to go through that. And then often at the end, they go, actually, you know what, I'm not sure I've thought this through. But if it gets through that process and we get something, then it's fantastic to see ideas like that come through with the team. Yeah.
I suppose there's other things we do. We have quarterly team surveys. So in that we ask what we should start, stop and keep doing to get feedback from the team and any new innovation ideas during that. As well as then at our morning huddle, we have what's your 2-second lean idea. So for that continual process improvement, and people bring up these little things that make a small difference, and the amount of innovation in that is huge. Just like 2 seconds every day, if everyone's just doing that, that adds up over time.
Wasn't your question, though, on how do you stop people taking your ideas?
Sort of both. So one, when you come to collaboration, great insight though, guys. I love that. When you come to...
I feel people maybe just making, we've try to make people feel part of the team and culture rather than... So then they're more likely to just come on board with all we have, and maybe we hire people that align with our values at the outset, but we haven't had that issue to deal with.
I think also it's just that you deserve trust. When you come in, we do the hiring, we give people trust. We don't have a lot of oversight. We don't have a lot of controls. People get access to whatever. So if we've hired right, people have integrity, and we don't have to worry about all that stuff. And that's basically been our approach. And plus, my mum's the bookkeeper as well, so she keeps a pretty tight rein on things.
So in response to your question, it's called a shareholders agreement, and in the shareholders agreement it contains clauses to do with company restraint of competition. So in the time that they engage with you, or for the length of time of the shareholders agreement, they agree to not invest in any competing companies, nor build a similar company that offers the service to you. And you also do be careful and be smart about what you share. And then once you do share a particular idea, be very fast about building it. But just...
I think in the tech, in the kind of the tech industry, I guess like making an app and these kind of things, it's a good idea. It is a fine line, because like, I guess, hey, our business model is easily to, like on paper, you say, oh, you're a car rental business, but you offer customer support at a high degree. Oh, let's do that. But the implementation, the execution of that is significantly different. And I think, you can go down this path of NDAs and shareholder agreements, a lot of this stuff. But I think there's a big difference there's a big gap, and now it's around more the leader and the person who's willing to execute on it. So rather than, I've found personally with other things that we've been involved with alongside with Splend, it's like it's just diluted focus if you're worrying about that stuff. Full stream ahead, cover your tracks, the NDAs with certain sensitive information, and then just go, because it's the manpower, the power to put into it and execute that makes it really happen.
And I've actually got an example of that. I had a potential client ask whether we had an ideas board, and we are developing a platform that for small organisations that's very simple. Anyway, they picked our brains about what it was, what can they give to their client, next thing I know there's a thing on LinkedIn to say that they've developed an ideas board, and I just went, oh well, I can't, there's nothing I can do about it. All I can do is make sure that the intent that we're building ours with, we're in phase 2 beta testing right now. So Andrew, I'm going to be talking to you because I know you mentioned ideas board earlier, but sometimes there's nothing you can do except potentially what Lockie just said, and just go with it and know that with all integrity your product is going to be good.
Yeah, there's more than one bank out there.
Yeah. There's a final question up the back here.
Hi, you're all quite young and you're successful. Have you faced much ageism before you've reached where you are now?
Ageism? Sorry.
Because we're younger.
Yeah, have people not, validated you in your industry? Have you faced barriers because you're younger, people discriminating your experience, I guess, because of your age?
It was pretty funny when we first set up Splend. We were going into these dealerships and we're like, oh yeah, how many cars are we getting today? Oh, I think 15. And the guys are like laughing at us, like, what are you talking? What are you kidding, kid? And the next minute we like make a few phone calls. Yeah, no, these are for us. Like, we need these cars. And it was pretty funny. And then all of a sudden, like, some guys who kind of give us a bit of attitude. And then at the end of the day, we just won't get the cars off them, the dealership. So they end up being their favourite customers. We're churning heaps of vehicles for them. So at the end of the day, if you've got a good product, all the the ageism and all that stuff, I actually felt it really works to your advantage. I think you go in there as a young mentality, you've got an open mentality. You're not fixed in with your ideas. And I think that's something as a company, our culture is being open around these different things and seeing as an opportunity rather than that you're not fused with your ideas.
Yeah, I think it can be to your advantage because, I think maybe some older people feel like they're not as in touch with emerging technology anymore. But yeah, I haven't faced that, and if anything, they do look at your runs on the board and what you've achieved so far, and no, I haven't experienced that.
Yeah, personally, I haven't really experienced too much. Maybe like generally, like you go to dental conferences and it's generally like older dudes pretty much. But I don't know, like we just get along with anyone. And so people don't seem to be that judgmental about it. And then probably in terms of our culture, we have like a really positive, fun, sort of youthful culture. So we feel it's like it keeps us young. And we have one dentist who is the founder of Avenue Dental, Richard, who's 73. And he's still awesome. He's still coming out, enjoying like a hike. We went out to hike with the team last Sunday morning and breakfast, and Richie came out leading the way. So yeah, it's great.
Did he dress like a unicorn though?
We would do. I think obviously new guys coming in as a dentist, the people look at them and go, "Oh my God, you just graduated? Do you even know what you're doing?" Freaking out. And Steve has a baby face now. You'd imagine him 10 years ago. He looked like about a 14-year-old.
2 years since someone said you're too young to be a dentist. So.
Yeah, he's almost 40. So, no, not really. And I think in general, it's best not to focus on that at all. It's best to focus on what you do have to offer. And I think people can get a bit bogged down on, those sort of things. My wife's a successful solicitor in a big male sort of firm, and she pushes her own way, doesn't let things get in the way, and people generally respect her because of that. Yeah.
I haven't had that problem either. I just thought I'd let you know. So, thank you very much for all the questions. Just before I let you go, there's a couple of things. First of all, can we get 3 takeouts from the audience? So 3 things that you might walk away with from this morning, potentially put into action straight away, or at least write on a list for absolute consideration and possible action. Anyone? Yes. Culture is strategy. Love it. Thank you very much. Okay, yes. Ideas board. I'll talk to you later. I've got one ready to go. Culture is strategy, ideas board. What else? Takeouts. Yes. Work on your LinkedIn. Fantastic. Excellent. Yes. Need to listen. Yeah. Great lesson from the beginning. Michelle? The space between the thought. Love it. Thank you. Heidi? A mongrel entrepreneur. Awesome. Yep, help the people around you understand. If you would all maybe send that to me, I'll do a takeout sheet and I'll send it through to everybody with some of the takeouts from the presentations as well. So, thank you to our guests, to Eli, to Stephen, to Deb and to Lockie. Thank you so much for coming. I can't thank our sponsors, PKF and Enigma enough for the support. I think this is Enigma's they're both third year, so thank you so much for that. Thank you. Have an awesome day.